Hello and welcome back to another episode of Transport Fever 2. Last episode, we made this food processing complex, and everything seems to be doing alright, as we're just going to be letting it run for now and the near future. As for this episode, the first thing we're going to do is extend our passenger line out the other direction from this train station so we can get one large line running from one end of the map to the other. So here in San Jose is where that line is going to end up. So we'll put in the station somewhere over here and then just run the line following the river. We'll need to figure out the best way to get it there without too many elevation changes, as well as the least amount of tunnels and bridges as possible. But hopefully once this is done, our train line from Santa Clarita to San Jose will sort of form the major spine of our main passenger line, where we can then branch off to other cities such as Winston-Salem, Albuquerque, and Downey over in this direction. And then the other way, we can branch off over to Birmingham and Montgomery. So let's get started here in San Jose by placing down our train station. We'll want to line it up with this road. We'll give it a little bit of extra length just for future uses, and we'll plop it down right about here. So now the hard part is going to be figuring out how we're going to get this track to follow along the river and challenge some of this terrain without causing too many issues. Especially over here by Jackson, it's going to be pretty hard to figure out something that works, but I'm hoping we can make something that looks amazing and functions pretty well, both at the same time, while keeping it within our budget. So after extending this track out from the station, we've reached our first challenge, which is this hill here. Not too sure how we're going to go about handling it, as it seems to make sense to maybe just pop out here at the bottom and follow the river, which is initially what I wanted to do. Although it might be cool to get a track sort of on this halfway up Cliffside, but I just think that the terrain is too high and too jumpy over here, so I think we will just come down and follow the river. So let's figure out where that's gonna be, and then once we get that all figured out and smoothed up, we can continue on following the river. So now we have our track coming out of the cliffside here and following along the river. We were able to keep it pretty flat across the whole thing. We will need to, once we get the second track in here, come in and smooth out the terrain just a little bit, and maybe straighten out this road just a little bit so it also sort of mirrors the curves that we have here in the train tracks. So continuing along the river here, we reach our next challenge, which is crossing this road. I don't really want to create an intersection since this is one of our main major roads that gets construction materials to here, and even though at this point in the game it wouldn't get blocked too much, later on though it would become an issue. So I think maybe the easiest way to go about this is to raise up the land a little bit and straighten out this road, and then we can have the track follow in right along the base of the cliff and have a tiny tunnel that cuts right under the road. So here's the solution we have for this area. Our tiny tunnel sort of turned into a very large tunnel, but this saves us the problem of if we followed the river here, this turn would have been too sharp and it would have slowed down significantly trying to make this turn, or we would have had to make a bridge crossing this little alcove of the river, and the bridges we have right now don't have too high of a speed limit, and it's just easier to keep the track on land for now. So this sets us up for a pretty straight shot all the way into the San Jose train station over here. So really all we have left to do is just bring this down the river and connect it up. Alright, now here's our track. It's pretty flat coming right out of San Jose, and then we reach the point where we go through this tunnel, and that takes us over to where our construction materials get shipped out of, and then again following the pretty flat edge of the river, we come over to this cliffside here, and then back into another tunnel where we come out right at the city of Jackson and into our train station. So I'm gonna make a second track following this whole thing and add signals and do all that stuff, and then when we come back we're going to actually redo our train wherever it is down here, because as we can see it's running full, and I believe at both stations, yeah, Santa Clarita we have 66 and Jackson we have 166. We are starting to get a good amount of demand for this line. So obviously adding another city to this would further increase the demand. So a new train, and maybe even having two of them so they run opposite of each other and the time isn't so long between stops. We will figure that out once we come back. Alright, so now I think we're at the point where we can come in here and sell this train. We'll pause real quick, just so we don't lose a whole bunch of stuff from doing that. But now we can begin to pick out a train that will work best for us. So I think this is the train we're going to go with. It's the 260 Mogul with 3 of these passenger car with clear stories behind it. This gives us slightly increased capacity compared to our previous train, as well as 10 miles per hour extra top speed. However, this comes at the cost of our power being a little bit lower, so it can only really get up to top speed on flat sections, and it really struggles up medium and high slopes. So we don't really have many slopes besides one section of the track, which once we set this up, I'll keep an eye on and make sure it's not a huge issue for this line. If it is, we'll have to work out something else, but I do believe that this should work out just fine for us. So we'll grab those two, and then we'll set them out on that line. Now while we wait for those to come out, we're going to want to redo this line so that it turns into a loop that goes all the way across the map. And I believe that works out just fine. It looks like everything's going in the right direction. And the only issue is, here in Jackson, we'll just want to change that over to the second platform so this keeps as one-way track. But anyway, here comes our nice new train coming out. I think this looks very nice. The engine and the cars match quite nicely in their styles, and I'm excited to see this get up to speed and fully integrated with our passenger network. So right here it's coming into the area that I think it would struggle with if there's any section of track that it would struggle. And we can see here, looking at its speed, it is starting to dip down, which as long as this doesn't get too slow, it'll still be better than the previous train we had. Yet again, this train is also still empty, so we don't know what the effect it'll have when it's a full train, although I don't know if it'll be too much. But I think it can handle it pretty fine by itself, and I think we'll keep it how it is. So now we have our train here running out towards San Jose, And I think this scene looks pretty nice with the cliffside and the river. But while we wait for this to get all the way out there, we actually need to set up our bus network in San Jose so we can get people to and from this passenger train station. So first, let's grab some bus stations. I think we could probably cover about the entire city in just about 3 stops. We'll just do a simple loop, something like this. Find our nearest road depot. And then from here we can grab a few of these buses to set on a new loop that runs around San Jose. So now while we let our trains run back and forth on this line and get fully up to speed while the passenger counts increase, there is one more line I want to set up in this video. And I think it's going to take place right here in this little bay area. We're going to take logs from this forest to this sawmill right here, and then all the way down to the tools factory that sits right about here, where we'll then take it over to the city of Stockton that sits right between the bay and the cliffside. So this will be an interesting town to grow out. I see it more of a small fishing town as it sits here on the bay with not much room to grow, but we'll see what the game thinks about that once we start growing it. However, let's get started with this line. So the first thing we're going to need to do is set up some streets. So we'll get a street right there, and then we'll need another running into Stockton, because I think we might do it by truck, even though it might not be the most straightforward path. It could be easier to just do it with like one boat, but I don't want to really crowd up this area as Stockton doesn't really have much room at the moment. So I think we'll just bring a road around and use that for transporting the goods into the city. So there we go. Now we have a nice little road that follows the foot of the cliff here all the way into Stockton. And the last road we need to connect is this one, which we'll just get as an intersection right there. And so now let's just get our truck station set up, and then we'll do all of the detailing and everything else once our lines are set. Alright, so all of our truck stations are placed. We have them all placed at their respective industries, as well as one little truck stop here right in the heart of Stockton that covers pretty much the entire city at this point, but more importantly covers the area that needs tools. So next we'll place down a road depot, and I think it would fit best over here next to the tools factory. So we'll get this rotated into position. I think that's lined up pretty well with the industry. And then we'll just plop that down and set up our lines. Alright, so now our trucks are being dispersed. We have one line that runs from the forest to the sawmill, and then we actually have a loop that runs from the sawmill to the tools factory, then into Stockton, and then back to the sawmill, just so we don't clog up this road with too many vehicles and different lines. So we'll see how that plays out. But while we wait for that to distribute itself and begin making us money, let's get into the detailing. Alright, so here's our forestry area all done up. Here's a nice close look of it. And we have this area sort of where everything would be happening. All the trucks and stuff would come in that would help tear down the trees. We have a bunch of stumps from where they'd probably be getting ready to take down this area. We have all the log storage, bunch of houses and fires for the people that would be on site for a little bit. And then we have the truck station here where it would take all of the logs and head over to the sawmill. So obviously this is the next place to get up and running, so we'll be right back as soon as we get that going. Alright, so here's our sawmill area. I did the best I could. The sawmill assets are a little hard to work with, but I still think we're able to get something that looks pretty convincing. Over here at our truck station we have these sort of storage buildings, and we got some of these open sides filled up with planks, just to sort of give the idea that there's a lot of stuff going on here, a lot of planks to be transported and whatnot. But finally we can head over to the tools factory and get this one going. Alright, and finally here is our tools factory. I'll be honest, this one was a little hard to do, again, as the tools factory asset only really has 2 buildings, so I tried combining them together to make one larger building. I'm not too sure how I feel about it, so let me know what you think about it. And we had to pull in some other buildings from different industries just to help provide a little bit of variety here. But I don't think it looks too terrible. Coming down into the main road here, where you would come in, doesn't look too bad. Even the truck stop itself, I don't mind. So, again, let me know what you think about this area. But now I think that's finally this entire loop all detailed up, and if we check over here, we can see we are getting tools delivered. So obviously it seems that we need a couple more trucks to carry planks and tools around, as we have quite a buildup at the sawmill. So we'll just go ahead, get a bunch of those. Those should hopefully help fill in the empty spaces in this loop. And with that, I think this whole area is pretty much good to go and ready to just let it do its thing. So checking back in on our train line that we set up earlier, we have tons of people waiting to go to Santa Clarita and a couple people waiting to go to San Jose. As we have this train pulling in, we can quickly grab it to check its finances and see it's making us quite a decent amount of money. So that's good to know already. And this one carrying 44, which means demand from San Jose is pretty decent as we check here at the station. And I think I'll consider this a pretty big success. I'm surprised that we're able to get this many people here to this train station and generate this much demand as well. So really happy that this is working out. We might even need an extra train running on this line, as we have tons of people waiting here in Santa Clarita as well. I think actually right now we might as well just clone one and let that go and do its thing. So I think that's pretty much all we're going to do in this video. So if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. If you have any suggestions or feedback, leave a comment below. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.